We were really trying to, a lot of the westerns and period pieces that we were inspired by. I mean, there's been so many over the years, but we were really looking a lot at the Technicolor westerns and the stuff from the '50s, which had a little bit more rich color, and so we really tried to embrace that with just the environment that we were in, and try not to, make the desert western, which is
the sepia tone,
tone stuff that you see a lot nowadays. So we really tried to keep it wide and tried to keep the landscape as much of a character, which I think is essential for this type of movie.
As Nathan said, we've been fans of westerns just since we were seeing movies as kids, and always wanted to do one. But then in trying to figure out the story we wanted to do, we're kind of bored with the kind of cliches and tropes of always like the female characters are often, even in great westerns, are often pretty boring, and they're an object of desire, or just a prize to be obtained, by the hero. And those elements of the Western were kind of tiresome and not interesting to us, and so we wanted to make her a complex human and take those the kind of tropes that people are familiar with the Western, but then put some relatable on a human level kind of emotional conflicts in there. To make it more complex, and then amp it up for comedic purposes.
We kind of look at it as what we want to make movies that we would like to see or that we haven't seen before, and so it is sort of like an experiment in that regard. It's sort of a challenge, and so like coming up with a unique structure and with story that kind of flip on its head a little bit, and balancing the humor and trying to make a comedy that isn't joke after joke after joke, and it has some grounding and realism to it. I think that's what we liked about the project from the beginning, and then how the pieces all came together. It kind of morphs from there and evolves as we're doing it.
In terms of the comedies that come out, it's quite difficult to find a comedy that's also sort of has an interesting character to play as well, I think, because obviously you're just really playing it just for laughs most of the time. And also most comedies in general, that there's such a kind of stable of comedy actors, and it kind of seems like I'm not really seen as a comedy actor, so like it's kind of we'll always go to a bunch of people ahead of me first. But I just found this was so strange and kind of it felt like a kind of abstract version of a comedy, and it was an interesting. It appealed to me in the same way that a drama would appeal to me. But yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun to do.
I feel like there's always a place for independent film, and it might be getting a bit harder to make them, but I think there's always a place for them, and I hope that, I don't know, hope that won't change. We're really lucky to be able to kind of dip in and out and do a big thing and then do a smaller thing, so...
To me, there's like a second wave, and then there's a bunch of new studios, and it seems like that kind of mid-budget filmmaking seems to kind of be coming back rather than going away, I think is great. And I think the more, it's always just the audience. The audience has to kind of go. If people are going out and going to the movie theaters, then people will continue to make them.
I have a question for Mia Wasikowska and Robert Pattinson, following up a previous one. What do you think about the Me Too movement? I mean, we have a strong female character here, and this movement is changing the landscape in Hollywood. What do you think about all this? Thank you.
I think it's just part of like a growing kind of consciousness of changing the way that women are seen, whether it's in films or culture or how they're represented. I think just the more you see kind of empowered or female characters that have a really strong voice or know who they are, or who are challenging expectations that are deeply ingrained in culture, the better it is. Just the kind of fall off effect or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's if you feel you've been wronged and you feel like you don't have the right to tell people about it, and you've been bullied and you feel you've been bullied into silence. I mean, it's one of the most awful things in the world. So it's kind of amazing when any kind of dam breaks and people feel like they've got the numbers to say like, no, you'll be safe to say whatever's happened to you. It's pretty amazing. I've been here with pretty much been to Berlin to promote like pretty much every movie I've ever done for like the last 10 years or something. I mean, I've always loved Berlin as a city. It's always really fun, but Berlinale is like, I mean, it's always like a complete thrill to get something into it. I mean, it's a great theater, it's great sound, and it's a very kind of enthusiastic and receptive audience. It's fun. It always seems a little bit more kind of casual than the average festival, and it's a really fun festival.